It is pretty nice to be able to throw this bike around as light as it is. Being on a dirt bike stand is a little iffy. It does get a little rocky on it, and it has fallen on my head. I want to show you like some of the control things I changed and what I got going on under the seat. So starting with the main switch here, we've had water get in here, completely corroded, and it failed to start. So replacing that. Now all this stuff is really cheap. It is all Chinese. The brake switch is right under here. Right here. I've had that stick, which isn't a horrible deal, but you know, it leaves the brake light on. It does have a safety switch where you have to squeeze the brake in order for it to start. This used to have a tether kill switch. I had to remove that because that got corroded on the inside and it was causing it to think it was disconnected. The brakes. Now this bike only has hand control brakes. It has no foot brake. I thought about installing one, thought maybe it had the mounts, but it does not. So not quite worth the work to do. But what I did do is originally this was your back brake, this was your front brake. All I did was I changed the lines, switched the lines, vice versa. So now this is the back brake, this is the front brake. The reason I did that was for my son. It's more associated to his bicycle. You know, right hand rear brake, left hand front brake. I know a little different in the future when he gets a bigger bike where this will be the clutch and this will be the front brake, but we'll worry about that when we get there. And he's also got a little thumb buddy on here, which really helped him a lot. It's funny how that little contraption really helps the fatigue on the hand. To pop the seat, right under here is this little lever. Just squeeze it, seat pops open. The stock battery was crap. The starter solenoid, that has gone bad. Again, corrosion again. Make sure it's covered, make sure it's secured. All your wiring, make sure it's all secured nice and tight. You don't want this stuff bouncing around, it wears out real quick. And I always recommend a little battery tender. We don't always go quadding as much as we want to. Inside here, little toolkit. One little thing I keep in the toolkit is a spare spark plug. I highly recommend that. This is the air filter. We're going to service that and pull off the carburetor and clean it. Now this is aftermarket. It's not necessarily aftermarket for this bike. Either is a carburetor. We're just going to clean this off, just your standard foam. It's got a little bit of a foam cover on top of it. It does have the bike breathe a little better. The carburetor that is on it is a little bit bigger and it's serviceable. It might be a little too big where it's a little rich, but that's okay. I'd rather rich than lean. And it starts a lot easier. All right, now we're going to get into the carburetor. That's the aftermarket. It's another Chinese carb, but it's a little bit bigger and it's serviceable. I can drop the bowl and clean it. The stock ones are riveted on and you can't necessarily do that. It's not all really easy to get your hands in here, but you remove this bolt and one on the other side and the carburetor will detach. And then you can drop the bowl, clean it, change the jet, whatever you got to do, if you can find the jets for it. What this is a silicone radiator hose. So as you can see, a little tough to show, but the tube just runs up. Let me guess if I get focus. So the tube runs up. It's held on with hose clamps and it runs right to the filter. These quads don't have an air filter box, so you do have to be a little cautious when you're in the water. All right, now we're going to get into the carburetor. So this is about a $20 carburetor, 22 millimeter, off of Amazon. It's another Chinese carburetor. It does fine, but like I said, it's serviceable. So I could drop the bowl, keep it clean, clean the jets, and that's what we're gonna do right now. Just a Phillips head screwdriver, taking off the screws. So I have this little container right here, and then on the seat area, I have a piece of wood with a paper towel on it. So this way I can put everything up there. You don't want to lose any of these little pieces. All right, that's a key thing. So what we could see actually with this is why you get a service. So if you can see, I have a little bit of fuel in the float. That's no good. So I'm probably gonna have to order a new one of these carburetors. This one has done some time for us, so that's okay. Slide out the little pin. Don't lose it. Slide out the bowl. Little float needle. Here's the float. You can see the fuel in it. But there must be a very minute little crack in this, and that's why there's fuel getting in it. So we want this dry. But I am going to continue showing you just how to clean it, and then I'll put it back together. And I'll order another one. So the main jet is right here in the center. Oh, wrong screwdriver. Just be careful not to strip these out. Get the right size screwdriver. Just unscrew it. Remove the pilot jet. Remove the fuel mix screw. I just screwed it in. It's 2 out. There's usually a spring with this also. Get the throttle slide in there. Squeeze up and down, up and down. Here is the needle jet. Now we just clean it. Just a carb cleaner. This is Zep. This is pretty good stuff. Sure the choke is working. So everything is functioning. And then don't forget where the fuel mixture. So that's clean. I'm gonna try and keep my hands as clean as I can. Let me just take our jet, just clean it out. Just squirt it in the holes, clean it out. Doesn't take much dirt. The bowl, just the screw. That's it. Everything's clean. Now you reassemble. Start with putting the throttle back on, getting the needle in. The little groove on it is only going to go in one way. That slides on, screws on, get the gasket in place. Screws on nice and tight, double check it. Open and closes nice. Air mixture screw in, or fuel mixture, 4-stroke. Or is it vice versa? Yeah, air for 2-stroke, fuel for 4-stroke. So that's sealed, that's tight. Back out 2. 1, 2. Take the big jet. Screw it in just until it seats. And put in the pilot jet. Oh, you know what we forgot? Forgot to put the spring in here. Drop the spring in. Half. 1, half, 2. Now here comes the tricky part. You gotta hold it upside down. I'm hoping I could show this to you. Float needle. So on this carb, slide it on. Don't lose it. It's like a dangling earring. You're gonna slide that into the hole. Damn it. Don't do that. It's another one of those things that's tough to do while it's on the bike and show you. So once you get that needle in there, it's not too bad. And then you're just going to take your little pin, position this up, slide it through. That's essentially it. I usually just give it one more because I just molested it. And we have our clean bowl. Put that on how that goes on. And the 2 screws. This is a pretty important step to do, especially when you have the bike sits for a little while, or you only go quadding, say, once a month. It doesn't take a lot of time, a little tedious, and now this carb's ready to be installed. It's nice and clean, but just remember, I'm going to install it, but I am going to replace it. That float was no good. This is where I have my fuel line, and I ran a filter on it. It's always good to clean the fuel before it's running into your carburetor. Now this hose is so tight, it holds itself on, no issues, no leaks. And if it looks, that's getting a little brown, but it still feels pretty flexible. I'm not too worried about it. Almost forgot the gasket. That goes in between the carburetor and the manifold. This is sometimes the biggest pain in the ass. Get your little overflow tube. Air filter is pretty simple. It's got a little foam like pre-charger. Take a little air, blow it out. This one's not in bad shape at all. Same thing with this filter. It's really not in bad shape. This is all preventative maintenance. Take a little bit of cleaner. Just Unifilter foam cleaner. That's it. Same thing with this. Just helps break down all the dirt. Clean paper towel. Wipe off any of the surface. A little more air. Looks fresh. Now we'll take a little bit of oil. Do not need a lot. Same thing with this. it back on. Ready to go. All right, now we'll change out the spark plug. 17 millimeter extension, ratchet, feeler gauge. This will be the check the gap, and a new, fresh spark plug. So it is good to check the old spark plug, get you back in focus. So you want to check the color on it. You want like a grayish brown, about that color is a pretty good burn. I mean, you could really break down the electrode, but I don't need to. We're not racing here. But to me, that's a pretty clean burn. And then I always take a feeler gauge, make sure it's still at the same gap, because that's what it ran good at. And that is 0.012. And then I take our new one, make sure it's the same. 0.012, there's just a little bit of drag. Now this one's ready to go in. Oh, one thing I forgot to do. You ever forgot? I forgot. Take out that little cap, no big deal. Screw it in, make sure it threads in nice and easy, because you cross thread that, you just created yourself a little bit of a nightmare. Take a plug, just put it back on. You want to feel it kind of like teeth biting it. Hear the noise? Like a zip, zzz. Snug, ready to go. Spark plug done. And we're getting close to the end here. Oil change. Bucket, extension, 17 millimeter. You may not need the extension, but I got to reach up through the dirt bike stand. You're going to see two drain plugs. That one, that one. You're going for the bigger one. There is no oil filter. It has like a magnet oil filter, but that's inside the case. So all you do is just change the oil. Pretty dirty. So you can see the dipstick right here. It's in a little bit of an awkward position of where they put the plastics. Have a clean funnel. Just kind of wedge it in there a little bit. And hopefully it doesn't make a big mess. I got Lucas High Performance Motorcycle Oil, 1040. I usually run 1040 in all my air-cooled machines. This is semi-synthetic. It's not that expensive either. So 1 quart. Yeah, this is what they do on TV. Lucas Motorcycle Oil into my motorcycle. Or on the floor. One of the two is going to happen. Oh, I'm blocking the label again. Oh, there we go. Looks a lot better than the stuff that came out. Lucas oil. Check the dipperoo. So screw it all the way down. That'll give you an accurate read. Unscrew it. Slide it out. And we are... We're good. Now it's nice clean oil. So good you can... No, I'm not going to lick it. No, not that desperate for viewers. Oh, toy! Last and final step. Get these stupid gloves off. Work with my hands like a man. Tire pressure. I'll tell you how many pounds of air on the side. 24 psi. There's no reason for us to be that high. So I kind of run about half that, so we're at 12. 12 is good. We can even run less than that. I mean, these tires, they don't need to be pumped up like balloons. Well, now how about we see if she fires up? I know we're not happy with that carburetor. Turn the fuel on. Let that fill up for a second. Neutral. Getting dead. Bitch. So while it's running, you want to check for any fuel leaks or oil leaks. No fuel leaks, no oil leaks. And there you have it. We just serviced a Coleman 125 Scrambler. Yes. Take your time when you're doing a service. Make sure you're finishing one thing, then moving on to the next. You don't want to forget something and then, God forbid, you know, something happens to your kid playing. And that's really it. So when you are done, when you're all done, fire it up, check the carburetor for any leaks, look underneath, make sure that the oil is leaking, and you're probably pretty good to go. If you don't ride as much as you always want to, the fuel, make sure you're throwing some stable in it. I like to put this in the can as soon as I fill it up. Helps keep that fuel as fresh as it can be, because if you have old fuel sitting in a tank, it'll have problems starting, it'll run like crap. And you'll be wondering, oh my God, what's going on? And really, it's just bad gas. Bad gas is a symptom that can tie into many other things. But just remember, fresh smelling gas is good gas. Well, that's all I got. I really appreciate your time. If you haven't done so yet, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks, guys.